On the face of it, your job seems quite easy. We're going to build a load of houses and we're going to do it quite quickly. Indeed, the Conservative manifesto said 300,000 houses a year. But then we find, OK, I'm going to build these, but we've got no water supply. Oh, that could be a bit of a problem. Or they're not connected to the electric grid or whatever it happens to be. Problem after problem after problem. And I'm empathising with all of this. Wow. How are you going to stick to a commitment, or can you ever reach that commitment of 300,000 homes a year?
They're all marvellous promises. They look good in headlines. They deliver nothing. They're Mary Poppins pie crust promises. Easy to make, easy to break, Mr. Gove.
It is the case that rather than being Mary Poppins, I think we've been Bob the Builder, because we have succeeded in delivering new homes. Just last year, we had the highest number of new homes delivered for 3 decades, and it's also the case that we had the highest number of first-time buyers getting the keys to their new home for 2 decades.
Yes.
Now, there's more to do, but the steps that were taken by David Cameron and George Osborne and developed by Theresa May have yielded results. But of course,
still below the target,
complacent.
Mr. Gove. Still below the target.
But you're way behind schedule, aren't you? 13 years of Conservative government. We've had announcements like the announcement you made yesterday in the past, before, and yet we're still not on track.
Well, again, building more homes is absolutely critical to making sure that people have the quality of life that they need, that the economy is powering ahead. And we have a record as a government stronger than our predecessors, stronger than Labour under Blair and Brown. And just last year, we managed to have the highest number of new homes built that we had for 3 decades, and indeed the highest number of first-time buyers acquiring their home for 2 decades. So again, I don't want to diminish the scale of the challenge. It's big, as you quite rightly point out, but we have made progress, more progress than our predecessors.
Here's the problem, though, isn't it? Inner city land is more expensive than the land outside. It is often contaminated,
yes,
and therefore there's a cost for clearing. If you merely convert, as one of your ideas is and has been around for a while, if you convert shops, if you convert offices, you could, if I could quote the Spectator this morning, lead to developers creating a slew of shoddy slums, not Houseman's Paris.
Yes, and the two things I'd say, firstly, you are right. It is more expensive to develop on brownfield land. That is why a development corporation or another vehicle can sometimes be required. It's why the government is spending billions of pounds, actually, making sure that that land can be rendered appropriate for development. And it's why one of the things that we're also doing is essentially extending Docklands development further east. We've identified sites like Beckton and Silvertown on the north of the Thames, and Charlton Riverside and Thamesmead on the south, where we will use government resource in order to remediate that land and to provide transport infrastructure so the private sector can then develop the new homes built to high design standards that we need. But it's also the case, you are right, that we want to revive existing high streets by allowing a change of use so that what was once Debenhams
could become a bulk of flats. But the danger
yes,
is that if you lower the standards for doing that, they become houses of the sort that you would not want your children to live in.
That is true, but that is why you need to have, which we will have, an appropriate design code to determine how those conversions take place.
You mentioned yesterday the regeneration of London. You talked about £1 billion of funding. That's not new money, is it? That was in that affordable homes programme I referenced earlier.
Yes, but it hadn't been allocated before.
But you made it sound like it was new money. This has been around for a couple
I explained
of
where
years.
it was going. So first of all, we get the money into the department's bank account, as it were. But then, until it's spent and allocated, it's there sitting in the account.
Can your party actually deliver when there's so much disagreement within the Conservatives about how to go ahead with housing policy?
Well, you're absolutely right that the individual MP for South Cambridgeshire has expressed concerns. His concerns are principally about water, entirely understandable, but we believe that the new task force that we've set up will be able to resolve that question, possibly with a new reservoir, but certainly with appropriate infrastructure. So I'm convinced that we can take Anthony and others with us. The business leaders, the scientific leaders who are so vital.
We've been looking at a map, haven't we, this morning? We're trying to work out where exactly this planned development was, because it's almost like a polo mint of green belt around the city of Cambridge. So either you're planning to build this on the green belt, or it's going to be a long way outside of the city. It feels like one of the big unanswered questions on this. Can you shed any light on it? Because you're saying it wants to be near where people want these developments to be.
Completely. We've asked a great guy called Peter Freeman, who was responsible for delivering the King's Cross redevelopment and who's the chair of Homes England, the government's delivery arm, to look at precisely this, to look at how we can make sure that we have the water supplies that we need, how we can make sure that we get the broader infrastructure we need, and then to talk to local people about where this development should take place. I'll wait for Peter to come back and make that recommendation. I've sketched out the sort of vision that we have, and it's important that any extension is built beautifully.
And you talk particularly about Cambridge. According to some MPs, your plans are dead on arrival. That was according to the South Cambridgeshire MP, Anthony Brown. I'm sure you've heard him say that. So you need to bring your backbenchers with you.
Yes, and the overwhelming response to the announcements that we made yesterday was very positive. So those people...
Not in his backyard, he says.
Well, Anthony is a friend of mine, and I can understand his concerns, but I believe that the overwhelming national interest is in making sure that Cambridge, which is a world leader when it comes to scientific innovation, is allowed to expand. The other Cambridge in America, where Harvard University is creating new space for laboratories at a tremendous rate. We risk losing our scientific edge if we don't have new space for laboratories, more space for science, and also more space for the individuals, whether they're the graduate students, the technicians, or others, who will allow Cambridge to thrive. So I believe that we can convince Anthony and others that it's in the national interest and in Cambridge's interests to allow it to expand.
Is that global leadership on climate change for Rishi Sunak to say he doesn't want to hassle householders with extra costs?
Well, that's absolutely the right approach. There are some people, the sort of Just Stop Oil Brigade, who have got a religion on this, and they don't care about the impact on individuals per se. They're just prosecuting a very narrow crusade. I think that the right thing to do is to have an environment policy in the round that doesn't impose excessive costs on individuals, but does look at the contribution that we can make as a country. So everything from restoring the health of peatland, to planting more trees, to making sure that our farmers are supported to move towards a more sustainable way of using land. These are big steps.
You guys are having a wobble because of what happened in Uxbridge and a few hundred votes in relation to ULEZ.
No, I think it's important to draw distinctions here. So the ULEZ expansion that the Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan has contemplated is about asking hard-working people to pay a significant amount more during a cost of living crisis. My view is that the way in which you build support for the environmental change that we need is not by penalising people in this way, it's by showing leadership across the board. And that means everything from investing in nature recovery to making sure that the progress that we're making towards electric vehicles and making sure that the progress we're making more broadly on decarbonisation is properly directed, but it is also the case that a thoughtful environmental approach involves taking account of other economic factors as well.